Namaste and welcome back to Purvapaksha channel and Om Namah Shivaya to all. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel. ये चैनल अगर चलेगा तो आपके सपोर्ट से वेलकम सर. Colonel Ishwar Singh is back on our channel Purvapaksha. It's also renamed now. Gaurav asks one and the same. So first of all, thank you very much, sir, for joining in. And without taking more time, let's move on directly to the topic. So what's happening in the world, sir? Why is such a chaos at the beginning of this year, 2026?
Well, if 2025 appeared to be chaotic, then be prepared for 2026 because, as the Italian Prime Minister said, 2026, when you reflect back, 2025 will look like a party time. It is just the beginning, and the world is going to unravel, and you will have almost the similar days back of empire days. The struggle will get into a phase where countries and the blocks of the countries will start chasing the resources which are required for us and will get into dogfight. There won't be any rule of law, there won't be any international rules, and the world is going to be much more chaotic, is what I understand. To begin with, the picture has already been set in 2025, in the first year of the presidency of United States of America's President Donald Trump. Now that the pitch is set, the real game will begin now, and it'll be much faster than T20 game. If you carefully analyze and see, there is a regime change done in Syria. Syria also has oil. There is a regime change done in Venezuela. Venezuela has oil. From the other bloc, there is a attempt to capture the minerals and the agrarian bowl of Europe by capturing Ukraine. So this is just the beginning. And the next in line you will see is Iran. The Iran is already showing the symptoms and signals of a regime change plan as work in progress there. World will be much more in turmoil. And as we step ahead and step forward in the time, I am of opinion that four people will be the most significant people in the global affairs as we go forward. Of course, the President of USA, Donald J. Trump, the maverick, the Chinese, Secretary of the Communist Party, Mr. Xi Jinping, the strong man, the Russia's President Vladimir Saab, and of course, Vladimir Putin. And the fourth one will be Narendra Damodar Bhai Modi. He's the new guy on the block. So as we go forward, this is a turmoil which will become much more thicker, complicated, difficult, violent, and outright trampling of any international law and order as such. Any superpower, or for that matter in yesteryears, declining empire will not go down without fighting it and fighting it all. So that's where more and more the push goes towards a de-dollarization. The US will not be able to eat out of the hands of the other countries of the globe because US for about 70 to 80 years or more than that has been handing out inflation to others by printing dollar and passing on their inflation to others and enjoying the when you pass on inflation to others, it's as good as you getting much cheaper everything from the others. And others pay for it. It is as good as a huge taxation. Now, when that is under the strain and heavy strain, and the US believes that now many countries are coming together to accelerate that, push it up. So the US won't go down fighting and it will not obey any rules to fight that. Now, the world is gradually going to get step into the multipolar world. When you say multipolar, what do you mean by multipolar? What you mean by multipolar is that US says in my backyard nobody can come. Of course I cannot police and dominate the rest of the world. So now the China will say when I take Taiwan or I take the islands of Philippines or if I take the pieces of Vietnam or I even entirely gobble down Mongolia, that's my backyard. Nobody can come into my backyard. Same is what Mr. Vladimir Putin says. Ukraine was part of me. I'm only just trying to take it back. then Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria, and forget about these minor ones below, that is Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, you know, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, all of these were part of my federation. Wherever there is a mineral which is of commercial value to us, each one will start taking in their own backyard. So these are the three poles. And the fourth pole which is emerging is India. India's backyard is very troubled, very complicated, and full of religiosity. But why India is coming up as a pole is because India's proximity with the Middle East, and Middle East has always been on boil, and Middle East has lots of minerals to it. To say gas, natural gas, to say so the oil, to say so the sun energy. So India would probably gradually, increase the trade and become a food security and net security provider in this region. And by saying no to US, India is the only country besides Russia and China who has managed to say a blunt no to US. And thus, if it is still surviving and if it is US is still engaging with, India is also going to emerge as the fourth pole. That's where the world stands, dear Gaurav.
Yes, sir. And what do you think about this action taken by US against Venezuela and the oil that's now he's going to take the control of? Will he allow others to do business?
See, it is like this. One has to go step into the little bit of history and a background to understand the whole thing, how it has unraveled. On the face of it is fentanyl and drugs and drug narco cartel and the protection of the Venezuelan president Maduro on it and all that stuff. But what is apparent to the rest of the world is that from the time the communist government or the so-called, the presidential system which has come, the US had developed all the oil extraction companies and oil wells in Venezuela till about 70s, 80s. And Venezuela has 300 billion barrels worth of oil under its belly, which was always done by the US Geological Survey. So they are aware about every drop under its belly. So Venezuela has world's highest oil reserves, much higher than Saudi Arabia. Also, Venezuela has the world's highest gold reserves in it. And US badly needs oil and gold to palm off its debt of nearly $40 trillion. You got it? So what US has essentially done is used fentanyl and the drugs coming to USA as an alibi to raise the hackles and kidnap the president of a sovereign country. Now, they would have a government of their own there, which will literally be a vassal country and a pliable government. Now, this government will first, as per the US, will pay the reparations for whatever the damage they have done to their society through drugs. My goodness. Now, each one can decide what damage you have done to me and I'll take it from you and nobody can stop me because I have the firepower. So, US will be the first claimant on the oil and it will completely control. And moreover, it is in the US territorial waters or close to US territorial waters. The others cannot match it. The firepower or the muscle power or the military power cannot be matched by others there in their own backyard, in their neighborhood. So now US will decide at what rate and at how and how much the oil to be given to China. China takes its 70% of oil from Venezuela and Iran, both are sanctioned. And these sanctions are sanctions of individual countries. These are not UN sanctions. These are sanctions of USA. Sanction means the USA says, I will not let you pay through my payment systems which you have in the world, SWIFT system. And on the top of that, I will not let your ships and insurance to take place. That's what sanctions means. It is not a UN sanction. So the China has, of course, alternative energy sources and its energy security is in place. But of course, it's a big setback to China. So US may let it happen to be sold to others, but more and more you will see the US refineries which had gone dry will now be coming into life and they will be refining and selling it at their will, at their price, So the US gets to benefit by refining it, selling at a higher margin, also taking reparations from this oil, also taking the entire crude to themselves and mining the gold to them. So it's a daylight robbery. It's a broad daylight robbery. That's where it stands.
Okay, sir. And regarding the context that we see in Middle East now, like on the other end, we see Iran is burning due to internal revolution, and on the other end, we see UAE, Saudi, and Yemen fighting between each others. So, will this instability go throughout this year in Middle East?
In Middle East, the instability is there from right 1900. From the time the Ottoman Empire went bust. From that date till date, not even a single day has been without an upheaval in the Middle East. Since the Middle East had oil but didn't have the firepower, didn't have the military power to protect themselves, it has been burning. And it is purely burning because of that natural resource with them. As long as that natural resource is there, and as long as that natural resource is useful to humankind, the Middle East will continue burning. As far as the UAE and Saudi is concerned, well, the UAE and Saudi are a battle within a battle, a war within a war. That is not a war within itself, but it is a war within a war. The war is between Saudi and Yemen. Saudi has taken UAE along with it as a junior partner or a cousin to get back their own government in Yemen, which they call as a legitimate government, and how these are a sponsored militia government of Iran. Iran itself is in trouble in all the fronts. So, Saudi finds it right time. So, Saudi has a government called PLC, which manages three-fourths of the barren area of Yemen, except for Sana'a and the northern regions which are adjoining the Saudi area. Except for them, rest is all controlled by PLC. Now, the point here is the Emiratis or UAE have joined them for their own lion share, and their own pound of flesh in the game. Otherwise, why have they sent their army there for about last 7-8 years? Why would they do it? But the Saudi is now looking at to have purely their own pliable government. So there is another faction within PLC which is called STC, which is much more, having a control over two cities of theirs and more southern areas and southern eastern areas which are adjoining the Oman. So that STC is now saying the PLC cannot have the all. It cannot have a cake and eat it too if the Houthis are pulled down. So that's a rivalry within the Yemen where the Saudi and UAEs are standing with the opposing parties. Hence, there is a diplomatic strain within them, the Saudis and UAE. The UAE also wants to be a name in the market, a reasonable, regional power. So if it has put its cost and fees there, then of course UAE also wants to have a, big share in the Yemen. That's how. So as we go forward, we'll see more and more of it happening. I hope you
Yes,
get
sir.
it.
And regarding Iran, will we see regime change in Iran?
See, nobody can predict it like this over a podcast that there will be a regime change or not. But all the
Yes, sir.
symbols and
Yes, sir.
signs, which it is not a breeze in the park or it is not a walk in the park that you change regime. This regime is also came after a regime change in Iran by US earlier. The Pahlavi dynasty or the Pahlavi rule was nothing but a regime change of earlier regime by US to have a pliable government there for their natural resources. It has always been a US and oil, US and gold, which has been playing out. So now that this regime then came into power, it has become absolutely anti US, and US has been enduring it for almost about now 45 years. So the plans are afoot to bring it down, and US has a natural ally, which is Israel, which is much more vocal and much more assertive in, to see that. So of course, both the cousins put together would love to see that. Not only that, in Iran, there are too much of internal fissures. The Iran currency has now crossed one dollar equal to $1 million plus. With that kind of, currency fall, the inflation is at 40%. That means every year the prices are doubling. So where will people get the money to buy basic stuff? And then to go and buy your groceries and your vegetable, you have to take money full in your car. That means your car has to be loaded with currency. That's the kind of devaluation they are facing. So that kind of inflation and that kind of a high cost of living and that kind of, Iran involved into funding the, fueling of fire in entire region, but not being able to take care of its people. People are quite fed up and disgusted with it, and that's why they're coming on the street. So Iran has a double front, but it's very difficult to judge as the how much the capacity the Iranian government and the Iranian clergy and the Iranian religiosity based, government, how much capacity it has to take this pressure on all fronts. That is the internal, the external pressure from US, Israel, and the proxies falling one by one. We had Assad falling down in Syria. We have Nasrallah going into fumes and into the smoke in Hezbollah. We have Hamas now being talked about surrendering and evaporating. We have Houthis being cornered by the PLC, STC, Saudis kind of stuff. Assad has left the country. A government has been put in place there which is against Iran now. So Iran's connection with Hamas and Hezbollah through the physical land is broken. So Iran has, and this has been Iran's investment of last 45 years, 46 years. The entire money has gone into smoke. So obviously that money could have been used for their people, for the infrastructure of the country, for the systems of the country, to develop those systems. But they have invested their entire money into these proxies and their missile arsenal and their chasing of nuclear power. But all that has been burned down. So there is chaos there. How long this chaos will last? It is a very, very difficult guess anybody would take. Neither Ayatollah Khomeini knows it, how long it will last, nor the president of Iran knows it, nor the president of USA knows it, nor the prime minister of Israel Netanyahu knows it. The time will tell how long it might take. But it appears that is round the corner. Around the corner could be 6 months, year, 2 year, 3 year. That depends upon the appetite of the mullah clergy which rules the Iran at the moment.
Okay, sir. As you mentioned, sir, that now every country is trying to safeguard its backyard, like US, Russia, China. Will we also see some actions from Indian point of view, like in Pakistan or in Bangladesh, if it's the necessity?
We need to understand this, that we are not a superpower like US, okay, who has to go and, lit fires around it and then try to control them. One. Two, we are not in a position where we can, capture the other country's president and capture their natural resources. Neither our history has ever shown that we have done that. So neither we are in a position nor we have ever done this. We have much better and higher moral standards, though the world doesn't recognize it. Neither one cares for it. As far as the action is concerned against the Pakistan or Bangladesh, it will be on a hard calculus. With that action, what do you gain and what do you lose? You can see it around yourself. Russia used to be at par with US. At one stage, it was ahead of US. Today, the USSR fell apart. And now that Russia has got into a minor war with, erstwhile its own part of country, that is Ukraine, and then Russian economy has tanked, Russian military strength has tanked, Russia's standing in the world order has tanked, Russia's economy is now not in even top 10. Yeah, so we were at this. So as I was saying, that there'll be a cost benefit analysis, and only basis that cost benefit analysis there would be some steps, otherwise no. Okay, if Pakistan continues to challenge India, continues to drag India into a low cost war, continues to play with fire, continues to abet, plan and execute terrorist act in India, then of course India is looking to be poised enough to bring Pakistan to its place. But if that doesn't happen, then I'm not very sure that India is itching to have actions around it, because it's a quicksand, it's a mud match. The pig will always invite you to come to the mud pit and fight with it, but the pig enjoys it. You need to choose whether you need to get down to a level of pig and get into that mud fight. I am very sure that India is preparing extremely well for a mud fight in the pit with the pig, but India is not willing to be the one who wants to invite the pig to the pit and fight with it. That's what my take is. And that's where it looks that I do not see immediate action on the horizon, but I definitely see a preparation, full blown preparation. Very recently, India has given an order of $10 billion of over and above its budget to amass its arsenal. And that's a very clear signal that India is not wasting even 1 minute to get its firepower in place. Should there be a movement, should the balloons go up, you will have action on the ground. But definitely India is not wishing for it, asking for it, inviting the counterparty for it. No, that's where I stand.
Okay, sir. And last question for today, and that was, as we saw what Donald Trump is doing across globe, regime change, or just trying to exercise his power as the president of US, will we also see some issue for Modi's government in India via internal issues like riots or to turn over the government or something like this?
If you're asking about do we expect unrest in India in the civil society, if that is your question, I see very small chutput incidents here and there. Otherwise, I do not see much of it. The biggest risk India's economy faces is the half front in India. That is the Muslim front in India. But let me be, kind of a bit more clear here on it that, well, the world will obviously like to exploit these fault lines in India inside that half front, make them feel more aggrieved, funnel the funding into it, also push them to do things which are not acceptable to a civilized society in India, not acceptable to the government of the day in India. Attempts will be there. And that is how the powers of the day in globe and the nefarious designs are to suck India into a war with neighbor or have a civil unrest and have a civil war kind of a thing. And that means no more investors in India, no more FDI, no more FII, no more domestic investment. And that's where you will look more like what Germany is looking today,
Exactly.
You would look politically unstable. You would look economically unviable. You would economically not, kind of enticing enough. And you have economic activity going down. So if you look at the biggest hedge fund managers of the world, the biggest risk they see in India is the fault lines of religious divide and the exploitation of it by the powers, the ill powers of the day in the world to suit their agenda and have one more competitor out. If you look at it, US today, US is the biggest benefactor of India goes down because it is the US who outsourced everything to China, and China is where it stands today, where China is trying to say, I'm going to replace you as a superpower. It is the US who helped Russia, and then Russia has today come to a power where it says, I don't care about you. There is only a third pole coming, and US would never like a third pole to come to a level where it goes out of its hands like Russia and China has gone. And what if these three powers tomorrow join hands after India goes out of it, complete this thing? And India is completely showing the signs of, not falling in line. The India saying about sovereign foreign policy exactly means, in a simple language, go fuck around and find out. US, we are not interested in towing your line in toto. We are fine to align with you where it really, suits both of us and it's a win-win situation. But I'm not interested to be a vassal country of yours and stand where you want me to stand and sit where you want me to sit. No, I'm not interested. So if India is a middle power which is coming up and showing those signs, if India also goes out of the fist of US, and if tomorrow they join hands, the rice, Russia, India, China, what happens to US? It's a very strong bloc to completely challenge US, and US hegemony will be limited to just North America and South America. So, keeping all that in mind, it looks like that India's first priority is to take care of this civil unrest risk assessment and risk, which is internal issues. To me, it looks like that the government of the day is working very strong in that direction. We have never seen this in last 70 years. See how beautifully they have managed 370. It was unthinkable ever to manage 370 like this. After 370, they have opened it for the rest of the India to go and settle there. After 370, they've taught a lesson to Pakistan not once, surgical strike, not twice, the Balakot strike, airstrike, not twice, thrice, Operation Sindoor 1. They have defanged Pakistan to a great extent, and also, nuclear blackmail, that bluff has been just called out. Also, so now that half front sees the Pakistan not being that potent, Kashmir issue that not being potent. So they don't have a weapon in their hand to do. After they have done Teen Talaq bill, after that they have done CAA, now they have done Waqf board. Now they are reclaiming all the encroached properties. Yesterday night itself in Delhi, they reclaimed the land which was grabbed by that Ilahi mosque where this terrorist who blew himself in the car has gone there and stayed in that mosque for 7 hours and prayed there. So it looks like on the top of that, this is one side. They have finished Maoism in about 8 states. To a great extent, it is going to be just over now. By this March, they claim that it will be dead and zero. They have solved the Maoist problem and the tribal problems in the Northeast to a large extent now. Most of the states in Northeast are not under the Special Armed Forces Act anymore. Even Kashmir is not under your Special Army Act anymore. So that shows that India is addressing the larger issues of the civil society. But there are still many which are like illegal immigration from Bangladesh. They conveniently making all the documents and trying to show as naturalized Indians and Indian living Muslims. So there is a lot. For that, there is a SIR going on. I am very sure after the SIR is successful and the Bengal government falls, they will come with NRC. So the current regime doesn't want to sit quiet, but it wants to handle everything step by a step, a step at a time. Not too many fires around you where you burn yourself down. So I think I do not see much of it happening. If CAA can go down the throat of enemical parties, societies, Muslims, if Waqf can go down their throat, what else is left? Everything else can go down their throat. If these things can go down their throat, they are also adjusting. There will always be naysayers, there will always be voices, but I do not see much of it. I think this is the single most risk which India faces today. India has a larger internal risk than the external risk. And I think India is managing well. And we hope that India manages it well forever. That's what my take is.
Okay, great, sir. You almost covered everything including the Delhi riots and yesterday's thing, stone pelting and all. That was for today, sir. That was really great that we touched almost every corner of the world and provided simplified overview to our subscribers and upcoming new subscribers. So once again, I will take this opportunity and thank you, sir, for joining in today and explaining us in detail regarding the things that are going across the globe. And I hope that the 2026 calms down a bit and there is less chaos. I hope that happens. So once again, I would like to tell the subscribers and the new joining subscribers to please join to the channel, like, share and subscribe and share with your friends, family, and please अगर channel चलेगा तो आपके support से ही चलेगा. Please do not forget to press the notification bell icon so that you get the latest update of our channel. And once again, thank you to everyone.
Namaste to you and all your darshak. Take care. Have a nice evening, whatever is balance out of it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Yes.